Greetings everyone, TJB Chris here. Welcome to part 5 and the final part of my Tandy series, Bigly Tandy. As part of my celebration of Tandy for 2022, I am covering application software for the Model 2, 12, 16, 16B, and 6000 computers. Tonight's application will be Teleterm, a terminal application, but in order to run Teleterm, we're going to do it a little differently than we have thus far. Those of you who may have watched the restoration videos for this Model 16B probably remember that I did restore the floppy drive, got it working, and even got it to boot a crusty TRS-DOS-II disk. So since then it's been disconnected and I've been using a Loggin here to emulate a floppy drive, but I finally caved and found a box of shrink-wrapped 8-inch diskettes, single-sided, double density, and the post office kind of munched the box, and when I was looking at the discs themselves, the outer jacket on the first few discs shows some bends in it, but the media looks to be okay. So what we're going to attempt to do for the first half of this video, keyword attempt, is we're going to try and wire up both the Loggin and the 8-inch floppy drive on here so that we can back up the floppy disk images over to the actual floppy disks. We'll then wire this drive up in actual drive 0 position, and we'll boot off with the disk and see if we can start the application. Now, this is a double-sided drive, the diskettes are single-sided, but all of the Radio Shack distributed software that I can think of came on single-sided diskettes. The only one that might not have might have been the Xenix 3.3 upgrade. But anything on TRS-DOS would fit the bill for a single-sided disk. And Teleterm is on a TRS-DOS-II disk, which is definitely single-sided, so we're not going to have any problems there, assuming that A, the drive still works, B, I can get them connected in such a way that they both work at the same time so I can copy to and from, and C, the media is any good. And if it doesn't, we're still going to look at Teleterm. Alright, let's get this machine apart and get the floppy drives all connected. Alright, first moment of truth, I just want to make sure that this thing spins up. Yes, it does. Perfect. Okay, I wanted to make sure this drive spun up and gave me the diskette prompt. That means that I have the drive wired correctly. So what we're going to do now is hook the hard disk up, the Fred, and see if we can get it to boot. Alright, we're booted into TRS-DOS, Roman numeral 2, version 4.25, from the Fred, which is just kind of perched. This is now on the expansion connector, and this drive is now on the primary connector, and it did seek at boot. So we're going to put this disk in and see if I can format it. And you may wonder why we're doing this, and I figured if I want to work to make this floppy drive go, it'd be nice to have at least one of the machines where I can actually use the floppy drives. So let's see what happens. Oh, I'm going to have to fix that. I believe I have labels and write protect strips in here. Look at that. Alright. It's formatting. I can hear it stepping. It's actually quite quiet. I always forget the 8-inch discs are backwards from 5 1/4. On a 5 1/4 inch disc, no tab means the disc is writable. On an 8-inch disc, you need to put the tab on it to make it writable. We'll be back when this finishes. Look at that. It did it. This is the coolest thing ever. Alright, we're booted up, and we're going to try and make a backup of the TRS-DOS-II boot disk, and then we'll try and boot it. Once I'm happy with that, I think we can put this back together, because now I can use this combination to make disks, which is just awesome, or I can make images from disks if I get a hold of any of those. So what we're going to do is, this is configured as drive 0. The A drive on this, the first drive, is configured as drive 1 on the cable. So I have ID A to 1. So we're going to do this, load the disk in. And we're gonna, let's see here, we're gonna choose TRS-DOS-425, Okay, and we're going to back up 1 to 0. Destination disk contains data. Yes, please. You can't really hear it. You can hear the Lothrak, but you can hear this stepping. This is the coolest damn thing ever. I'm sorry. I realize that this is more of an application series, but this had to be a thing. Can you hear that? Oh, yeah. Backup completed. Let's see if we can boot from this disk. Alright, I'm going to eject the SD card. I'll hit repeat break. Here we go. Oh god, that's cool. I figured too, if I spent all the time getting this floppy drive restored, I may as well actually friggin' use it in Exerciser. I'm just gonna not have it. That is so friggin' cool. Oh my god. Alright, so I think this proves out the concept, so I'm going to get the machine back together. We're going to make a couple more TRSDOS-II backup disks, boot from the hard drive, so I can do that. And then we're going to take the opportunity to f-copy Teleterm over to one of my disks, and then we're going to explore the Teleterm application and use it to connect to something fun. Alright, machine's back together now. Drive 0 is the 8-inch floppy drive there. The Lothrak just down here is drive 2. There's no SD card in it, and I actually have the Fred emulator disconnected. This is going to be a floppy-only operation. So I've gone ahead and created the application diskette for Teleterm. I've also created a TRSDOS 2.0b and a TRSDOS 425 boot disk with no applications on it. I didn't figure I wanted to go into it with the video. I wanted to keep it down to a reasonable length. If that's something you want to see, let me know. I can walk you through the process I went through in another video. So anyway, let's run this thing like a real floppy disk system and transport back to the early 1980s. Alright, first things first, let's remove the cover of my diskettes. And for those of you who didn't have to grow up with these things, you know, the kids these days, the box fits back in the thing. It's self-containing. Look at that. And we can see here my first diskette is TRSDOS-II, Teleterm, and Omniterm, and it's TRSDOS-II version 425. So I'm going to move this off to the side. And we're going to power the machine up. It's going to say insert diskette. And while we're doing that, we're going to power the printer on. So everything's on before we load the operating system. There's our insert diskette prompt. Let's do this. Alright, we're back to manual mode. Teleterm doesn't make too much use of reverse video, so hopefully we'll be in good shape. So we're going to break out our diskette. And unlike the original Model 2, where the diskette's inserted with the label facing away from you, these diskettes are inserted label facing toward the operator. All we have to do is insert the disk, and once we turn the latch, booting begins. Alright, today is 9/28, 22. We're cutting it awfully close for the end of Septandy, but that's how I roll. Now this is going to take longer than usual because I have a startup file that I've configured the auto function to run that properly configures the seat crate on the floppy drive, turns off the clicker, and sets the printer width to 80. And we'll just list that file now so you can see it. And you might be able to hear the drive is now seeking quicker. This is a 3 millisecond step rate. Anyway, so here we go. Drive 0, set the rate, detect the drive latch, wait. Drive 1 off, drive 2 is the Lothrak, no detect, drive 3 offline. Click off, forms W80. Alright, so when Teleterm runs, it actually starts with a menu. So let's take a look at that. Telemenu. On the Teleterm disk proper, this just automatically starts up. You can see we have a couple of options here. edit and create a Teleterm communications table. Actually allows you to create your own custom terminal files. Enter the Teleterm communication program. Well, we all know what that does. The text editor is a very simple text editor. There's a file conversion utility for making transfers of binary files easier, and we can access to the system. By the way, I don't have the manual for this, so what I know and what we're going to walk through is what I know in working with this. This is actually my default program for calling up bulletin board systems. Here we go. The first thing we're going to do is enter the communications program. It's going to show us a list of the files available for terminal emulation. One complaint I have about this is if you have a disk in another drive, it only shows the directory of the most recent drive. It just goes to the next drive and doesn't append the list. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't use the files command instead of dir, but whatever. I'm going to use TRS-16. You can see we've got VT100, VT102, the video text, adds 25, that would be the equivalent of a TRS-80 DT1 terminal, and a bunch of others here, EasyLink and blah blah blah. As you can see, I don't have to enter the extension here. Okay, so this program actually supports some interesting things like automatic operation for modems and things like that. You can set up the equivalent of scripts to make it actually dial, connect to a system, send a login text, things like that. There is a clock and timer you can initialize, which I'm actually going to do that. I'd like to reset the timer to 0. And I'd like to turn on the display. I definitely want to know how long I'm connected to the online service because connect time is expensive. Okay, and we're going to go back. Now, you might have seen once you leave an operation, it tends to dump you out to the terminal. That's where I am. So I'm going to hit Hold H for the help menu. One thing it took me forever to figure out with this program, because I didn't have documentation, is that all these keys, you can just hit Hold and then the key, and it'll bring the menu up. And the H, Help, will bring you basically the menu it drops you to. So, for example, if I want to go to the communications, I can just hit Hold C, which I'm going to do now. Here in the communication screen, we have a bunch of things we can edit. First things first, we'll take a look at the RS-232 parameters. And actually, it remembers from last time I used this, we want 9600, right arrow goes to the next one, 8, none, 1, and we're going to be using communications port A. Okay, we have carrier detect checking on. Now this one you can't go into, so I just push enter, and that tells me to check for CD or not. I'm not going to bother. DTR checking, same deal. Enter key turns it on or off. Nulls between characters. Edit break key attributes. This is fun. I can set the break character sequence for the system I'm calling in. I'm not actually going to need to worry about that. Wait for character feedback. Set the duplex, which I want to say is only going to really apply to serial channel A. I want to say that serial channel B on this is asynchronous only. But if I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. You can send a line feed after a carriage return, which is not necessary in this case. We can do hex ASCII conversions, and we can do handshake attributes. Let's take a look at those. So we can turn on, X off, and the DTR line handshake. We'll leave this as it is. Break key takes me back. Okay, so let's, before we go any further, make sure that we have a connection. So on the other end of this is a Raspberry Pi with TCPs are running, so it's going to act like a modem. Perfect. Alright, let's go back to the help screen here. And of course, there are modem operations. Actually, let's see. There are modem operations. There's the logon message, like I said. There's printer control. Let's look at that. And we're not going to go into every feature of this program. I basically did that with DeskMate. The printer is now disabled. We're going to leave it for now. And what else do we want to look at? My timer didn't come on. I want to fix that. 0. It's funny that's not actually coming up. One more time. Turn on timer display. Enter same as right arrow. Right arrow. Okay. I'm not sure exactly why that's not showing up. I'm pretty sure I've seen it before. Transmit a file. I can send a file if I want. I can display the disk directory. There's video attributes. Let's look at those. Again, I don't have the manual for this, so it seems new to me in places. Well, welcome to working without the manual. Line feed after carriage return on display. So local. Emulate terminal characteristics. Line spanning. Video paging mode. Video length. Deck 80. Origin mode. Yeah. Display incoming RS-2 through data, I would hope. And one of the things you can do with this is have it dial telephone numbers for you. And I want to say I have to edit the communications profile to allow it to do that. So there's not going to be any numbers here, and I probably won't be able to add them, but let's double check. Okay, wants the type of modem. This is going to be a Hayes Smart modem because its TCPs are on the Pi. And yeah, I can just select, but I can't add any numbers. So actually, let's go see if we can do that. I'm going to hold Q to quit. And let's see if we can add the phone number and have it dial it. That would be cool. Alright, I want to create or edit. And I'm leaving the loading time in here because we're working from a floppy disk. That was part of the draw today. I want TRS-16 again. File loaded. Great. Okay, 9600, 8 none 1. Okay, that's why I remembered it. Okay, good. 9600, 8 none 1. Port A. Okay. I think we're good here. Send all data to print. We don't want that. Send all data to display. Interesting, you could just do the printer, not the display. That would be a neat trick to play on someone. Break screen completed. Okay, automatic controlled memory buffer, wait for prompt, break character is. I'm going to leave that screen as it is. That screen as it is. User defined key sequences. Oh, I wonder how those actually go. Character codes and hex, we're not playing with those. Or those. Or those. Enter the arrow key transmit codes. Oh, that's neat. Enter auto transmit titles and messages. Oh, cool. So I could actually have it just transmit a sign-on script or something else. But I'm not going to. We'll just do it manually. Okay, here we go. Now is where I can... okay. EBS. Okay. And I'm going to configure TCPser so I can dial 5551212. And that's it. Okay. And I'm not going to mess with any of the conversion tables. Oh wow, you can configure all these. So this is where you really get to what character codes do what. So if you really had some time on your hands, you could really do it. Should I save this table as TRS-16? Yes, you should. Hopefully that lowercase y works. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to enter the communications program and we're going to try to dial it automatically, and then if that doesn't work I'll just type the stupid command. To Teleterm communication program. If I did this correctly I should be able to tell this to just dial the telephone number and it should just go do it. All the communications parameters, everything else should be set correctly. And the number should be listed. So let's see. Because this is TCPser and I don't know what's going on in the background, and it's also a USB to serial adapter between here and there, I don't know if all the lines are there. I don't know if it's going to behave enough like a modem to get the machine to do what I want it to. So we've got our thing. Our phone number I put in was 555-1212 on the TCPuser side, so let's see what we got. Looks like a whole bunch of nothing. Am I connected? Oh no! It did connect me. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, let's log in. Alright, we're 80 by 24. Alright, so it did dial it, but it didn't do... That's weird. So I didn't get to see the cool logo that came up, but okay. There's a video on YouTube of the owner of this BBS, I'm pretty sure, dialing in from a Model 2 with a rotary phone and an acoustic coupler. So, link up there someplace. You should definitely watch that video. Feel free to pop in and say hi. I was on earlier today, so I have no new messages, but let's just read some messages. Here, let's see what we have. 14065. Defining retro computing. You know, it's probably wise for me, if I don't want to waste online time, to try and print out everything I'm seeing here. So let's see if we can turn on the printer. Printer's already powered on. We'll just see if we can get the printer echo to work. So I want P printer control. I don't want to keep the BBS waiting too long. Okay, I want to enable the printer. Okay, so let's do this. Let's search for a message, and we're going to search for TJB Chris. Alright, what did I say about the Coco 2? 1, 2, 3, 3. Really? 1, 2, 9, 3, 3. It wasn't done printing. Yes, I was talking about 32 by 16 terminals on the Coco, and at least on my Coco 3 and the later 2s, you have real lowercase if you have something that supports it. So, very cute, cool. Let's quit that. Alright, it seems to me that maybe we should stop this. I'm going to hit hold P, and I'm going to disable the printer. So now I should be able to run this without having the printer go. And in a minute here, we'll take a look at our printout. Shall we play a game? I love the games. Alright, there are a number of games here we can play. I'm actually not going to waste the time playing the games. I do like the basic computer games for tic-tac-toe and blackjack-dough. That's pretty cool. Alright, so let's just 5 to quit. And I haven't done it, but you can, on this BBS, link your Twitter account. Give it permission to actually tweet from this, and I've never quite done it, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, it's a cool BBS. I'm also on Particles BBS, so you can put these in the comments. Also a very cool BBS, and I usually use my 4825 to dial into that running Xenix because it's an ANSI terminal, so it shows all the ANSI graphics, and Particles makes pretty heavy use of it, and those are kind of my 2 old school hangouts. Anyway, let's log off, and I haven't posted any messages or replies, that's fine. So let's, now that we're back to just the modem, let's go check out that editor. Alright, and I can either enter it here or I can do it from the other screen. I'm just going to hit E for editor. And it's a very basic editor. If I hit break, I can basically load, save, print, information, or exit. I don't know what information is. This is a short text. So anyway, that's all this is. Break, save, videos, back arrow, EOS, text, I'll just call it that. And I don't know what information is. Oh, length 316, free 2483. Oh, wow. Interesting. I mean, maybe with the terminal loaded in the program, maybe you get more? Let's find out if you get more with Teleterm not loaded. Hold Q. Oh, hold Q. Must not hit it right. We're going to quit Teleterm now. But we're going to be dropped back to the menu. Now let's run the editor. And let's just see how much memory I have free. Oh wow, 38K almost. So if I load, okay, yeah, this is a short text file. And now if I look at I for information, yeah, I have 38K free. So the lesson here is if you want to deal with a longer file, you need to open that when Teleterm itself isn't open. Otherwise you have almost no free space, and if you open a big enough file, you won't even be able to see it. But actually, as basic editors go, it's not bad. So I think that's going to do it for Teleterm, and that's because this was really a two-part video. One, to get the floppy drive going again. I thought that would be a fun little side project since you've been staring at the screen almost exclusively for the last few videos. But also a nice application to actually use it with. So let's shut this down in the way that you're supposed to. And despite what else you may see on YouTube, you need to take the disk out before you turn the machine on or off. And these drives, sometimes called shredders, these tandem drives tend to eat disks. What happens is when you open the latch, the eject spring moves the disk out fast enough, and I know I said this in previous videos, but now you're listening to it again. And what will happen is it'll catch on the head, and it'll destroy the surface of the disk, and it can damage the head. So there are two ways to deal with this. One, you can disable the eject spring, which I almost did on this. Two is you can give it an open with a quick snapping motion, which will allow it to clear the head before it shoots out, like that. And then I can just slowly remove the disk. And there we are. That's my disk, back in the jacket, and then the machine goes off, and we're going to turn the printer off, but before we go, we're going to take one last look at that printout. Alright, taking a look at the Star NX1000. We have my printout here, and you can see I had host site search for. I'm sorry if that's a little washed out. I didn't put it on terribly dark because I want to keep my ink. And is that a later Cocoa 2 with real lowercase. And then we just got the menu. And that's about where I stopped it. So it's about a page of printed text. But that's the kind of thing that you can do. And you could also just receive the file, and I could have printed it from TRS-DOS. You could use the send and receive file features. And since this is a more message-based bulletin board online system, I didn't really deal with file transfers, but I also figured you've seen enough file transfers, you don't need to see me do it in Teleterm. Alright everyone, I think that's about going to do it. So I'd like to take this moment to thank you all for joining me for my Tandy 2022 series, Bigly Tandy. It's been a lot of fun to do these videos, and it was a little bit of a departure for how I usually do things on the channel. I usually tend to get mired in the weeds for hardware, software projects, and little parlor tricks on the machines. So this was a nice little distraction. There are other applications, so perhaps not in a Tandy fit, I might consider doing those. But for now, this has been a lot of work, and a lot more than I usually release in a month. I did 2 to 3 times more videos than I usually do in a 30-day period. So I'm going to take a much-needed break, have a very much-needed scotch, or 3, and then we'll reevaluate what I want to do next. I do have 3 computers in the pipeline that I have not actually debuted on the channel. One is this Color Computer 1 that made a brief appearance, but I've not actually played with it yet. So I need to take that out, get its condition figured out, and maybe we'll use that to connect to something else, or do something else fun on it. I also have a Tandy 3950 laptop, which admittedly is barely a Tandy machine at best. It came out in 1994 sometime, well after Tandy had sold the computer biz and R&D over to AST. So it says Tandy on it, but it's still a kind of a neat machine. It's a 90s laptop with Windows 3.1 on it. And I have a Tandy 2500 SX25, which is most definitely a Tandy computer. And I have not actually debuted that on the channel either. So If you'd like to see any of those 3 machines, let me know. I do have a few other ideas in the pipeline that I think I might pursue, but for now, like I said, I'm going to take a break. But I would like to take this opportunity again to thank you for watching, for all the great compliments and feedback and everything else you've given me, and all the encouragement. I know this is not the most put together channel, the audio is not always great, the lighting is dumb, and along those lines I would point out that I don't take any money for this. I do have the channel monetized, but the amount of money I get doesn't pay for a couple of months of Adobe Premiere and Creative Cloud. So I have I hate the word, but I have a prosumer camera that I'm using to film this on, a tripod my wife got me for Christmas, a subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud, and actually I do have some audio gear coming, so I can try and fix some of the audio and issues and normalize some of that. But behind all that and all the purchases that make this channel go, and all the machines and other great things like this clock and this one, oh, and you know, this one and this Model 16 and that Model 16, that's a realistic Model 16 with the door missing. That's an EC329 under it. Anyway, point being, I don't have a Patreon. The monetization, like I said, doesn't cover much, and I don't have my hat out. I do this just as a labor of love for the machines, and I choose to take the time to spend the money to share it with everyone. So, you know, I don't intend to have a Patreon or anything else like that. If it also means the channel's only going to get so good in terms of production. So, for those of you that stick with me despite that, I really thank you, and I know some of you have been sharing the channel with others, and I double thank you for that. So, thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me drone on about Model 16 applications, and I hope you guys will join me in the future for everything that's about to come. So, until next time, grab yourself a classic whiskey and stay classy.